why we shouldn't do.
Yeah, that's true.
As
That's
long
true.
as they can do the
Andy,
job.
you could identify as a female, therefore there's two in the group.
I could. That would really. It's almost worth doing just to see what would happen, isn't it? What call
Right,
me?
okay.
I want to be known as Loretta. Yes, from now on.
I want to have a womb.
Yeah, where are you going to just state the fetus in
Maybe
a
meant
box?
to just state in a box. Exactly.
Yeah, but the principles there. You see, they were light years ahead. That's what 25, 30 years ago. So light years ahead.
That's true. Right, okay then. Let's see if there's any we got a few things I want to get through tonight. I got loads of stuff to get through tonight, but yeah, but we're gonna get through it anyway because there's obviously more stuff next week. And so Judith said that she's getting trouble getting on. I don't know where Roger is. Drina, no
Didn't
news
Roger
from,
say he wasn't going to be here this week?
or he's somewhere with Drina because they seem to be away at the same time.
Well, could be. You never know.
Maybe they're in Poland.
Could well be.
On a recce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's it's the type of thing we're doing on a regular basis.
Well, they did announce today that a lot of the Ukrainian forces apparently are deserting because they don't want to do it anymore. So that maybe there's something there. Maybe they've popped over the border into Ukraine and had a word.
Hang on a minute. Read the.
Oh, you've frozen.
Carl, you're frozen.
You're frozen.
You can hear us.
Oh dear.
And a pretty frantic freeze as well.
It is, isn't it? Is he aware that he's
I
frozen?
don't think he will be, no.
Oh, there he's back again.
You froze there,
back.
Carl. Yeah.
Right. So run that past me again. Lots of Ukrainian forces are deserting.
It was saying on Radio 4, so a reasonably good source, that there were it said thousands were leaving the front line. I think so. Basically deserting. I don't know how true that is because I've not seen anything else since. But
well, I think Russian soldiers are leaving in droves as well if they can.
Well, that would be the way to stop it, wouldn't it? If they all just leave and said, "Well, we're not going to do it anymore,"
put down their weapons and refuse.
Yeah, that would be so nice. But they won't then.
Hang on, isn't there a song there? But anyway, let's crack on. Right, so Andy, just you were talking about the conference, so it was pretty good then, yeah?
Yeah, it was. There's some nice information, and it was just at the kind of right level. Sometimes to get the level of information wrong, it's kind of either a bit too simplistic or a bit too complicated. But they got it just right this time. Certainly for me anyway. So there was a few technicalities and things and that, and a few kind of general things. Stuff. Yeah, it was good. It's good. What was coming out was the same old thing, particularly because they seemed to be focusing on early medieval, about because we haven't got many sites in Cumbria, actually there is another one down that Claire and I dug up a load of bodies in recently that they didn't seem to know about, but Claire made sure they knew all about that as well. Spread the word. Well, it's good. It's all network because they were all quite the right people to be mentioning it to as well.
Oh, good.
But it was the same old thing, is that the technology was allowing us to be able to research a lot better now with what we got, and therefore we're getting more information out of the original sites. But also, of course, Cumbria, it's not had any main roads going through it or railway lines or things. So they're not finding it because of that. So, and then nobody's prepared to start looking. So because it costs too much.
And you haven't got a HS2 going through Cumbria.
Well, that's what I mean. The railway lines. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where all these things are. Most of them are coming up on big engineering, civil engineering
and housing developments.
Yeah. Well, we're getting a few of those, so that might kick up a few. So
yeah, they're doing a big one outside Windermere.
So is it true that Cumbria had railways before railways were invented because they're so outdated in Cumbria, Northern Rail? Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. They've gone backwards. Yeah.
Right. Okay then. Anything from you, Will?
No, I've been following different lines of research and doing some reading on different things. I mentioned to you, I put a video on YouTube concerning
I saw it. Yeah, good.
right, the Roman road from Malton to Whitby and all the potential camps, and looking at Google Earth to determine whether you can identify areas with underground buildings. I saw a Time Team art video the night before last on Litlington, where they had a Roman villa supposedly, and the Time Team back in 2011 went out to do a 3-day investigation. And I looked at Google Earth last night on it, and I can see areas where potentially not where they were digging, but again the where you get the faint brown
Yeah,
outlines of buildings underneath the green using Google Earth. And I can't prove whether or not a camp is a camp other than those that
yeah,
are identified. And I picked up on a couple as I went through my stuff and through some of the reading that I put into this video on the Roman camps from Malton to Whitby. But I think it's a tool even for Cumbria. You can go and Google Earth Cumbria, and you'll be amazed what you might find from the sky, and it's free. So, that's
exactly.
it.
But the one thing I'd say about that, they could be from all different periods, and I can remember last year, for example, I was publishing some reports, and I remember next door to a site that I was doing a survey about the Second World War, and suddenly I was looking in the aerial photography in the field next door, and I thought, there's a bloody villa. Anyway, I got the Royal Commission to look at it, and they said, oh, it's just not, it can't be a villa there. The lines don't look right, but it's all it's all academic sometimes. But yeah, it's always worth looking out there. Oh yeah, that was another thing. It was 2014, and somebody said, I found this settlement in the Vale of Glamorgan, and I just thought, oh right, yeah, really. So he said, oh, look at this aerial photography. Anyway, we went out into the field, and we found some Roman pottery, and I didn't think anything of it, right? Anyway, if I'd have taken it seriously and reported it there and then, we would have been the ones finding it, because a few months later, somebody else reported that he'd found a villa there, which was quite upsetting, to be honest with you, because I didn't take it seriously. But there's so much out there to study, and sometimes it's just trying to find the resources to do it. Anyway, thanks for that, Will. Thank you. Margaret, and hopefully Judith will join us soon. Margaret.
I've been reading about charioteers.
Yeah.
An interesting story about somebody called Scorpus. Have you heard of him?
Scorpus the charioteer in the theatre of Maximus.
Yeah. He won, gosh, how much was it? Millions, the equivalent of millions of pounds a race. And yes, his horses were from Carthage. And yeah, it sounds really interesting. He started in his teens and competed for 25 years.
Every single race is going to be his death. So 25. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Well, he was a slave. He managed to buy himself out of slavery, but he was still considered a bit rough. He was never really accepted. He was still considered rough. And they were saying that the races were very violent, lots of cheating going on, very dangerous. And people used to throw curses into wells. They found some in Israel, actually.
Yes.
Why in Israel?
Well, it was part of the Roman world. So
yes,
lead,
I guess so.
Tablets, exactly. Yeah.
Well, they looked upon wells as passages to the underworld, and they found ancient spells had been thrown in this well in Israel with curses to blind the opposing charioteers or to cast them down. And so a lot of skullduggery going on.
Yeah.
Mind you,
he was a real rags to riches story, and his career ended when he was 26. He won £4 million per victory.
Wow.
Hang on, stop a minute. I thought you said he'd been doing this for 25 years.
No. His career ended when he was 26. So I got that wrong.
So he did 25 races by the sounds of it.
Yeah. They
Right.
said the equivalent, well, a Formula One driver doesn't earn that these days.
Oh,
So sounds amazing.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't recommend it as a job change, Margaret. The survival rate is not very high.
Oh, well, he started his career at Carthage. They had the biggest circuit outside of Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, very interesting article.
Nice. Nice. Anyway, thanks for that. So I've got a few things tonight, and it's a shame we haven't got everybody tonight, but they can watch it on record. So let's just crack on. And I've got to work out where I am a minute. Right, here we go, into the box and into the Valley of Death, the 500 road. Yeah, what was that? A 1 in 4 chance that you're gonna no, 1 in 4 chance you're gonna die there. Right, so let's Baldrick's doing. Was it the 500 or the 600, Lord Cardigan?
I think into the Valley of Death Road, the 600. Yes,
it was the 600. Yeah, I think 140 died.
Yeah, cannons to the left and cannons to the right of them. Yeah.
And by the way, that image there, I'm loving it. I've mentioned that to Michelle, and she said, "You what?" So there's loads of different things to do tonight, and I've just sort of will. So we've got all that stuff. The end story, right? Because I am meant to be doing a bit of Boudica tonight, but we'll see. Right, that end story, I've got that story in the last of the slides because the Boudica thing's going to be reading. Is a story that I haven't told for a long time, and it's quite gruesome, right? It's to do with a crypt outside Paris. You remember that crypt outside Paris? Do you remember that story I used to tell Andy? Have you remember that one?
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
That's it, is it?
No, that's not it. I'm just
right.
saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying I'm going to do that story because nobody else has heard the story.
I won't say anything.
Don't say anything. So basically, look at all this stuff that we got to go through today. Look at all of that. Look at all of that. There's just loads, right? There's loads, and I'm just reminded that I've that we're going to start off here, right? And I just wanted tonight to examine bits of the Roman world, or the world that the Romans took over, right? And nobody shout out all at the same time, but this is Paestum. And this is Paestum in Italy, right? So this site itself was known as Magna Graecia, which means the great city of the Greeks. And there are 3 temples here. And I just wanted to do this because Henry in the other class, he said, "What about this site?" Right. And I just thought, right, I've got to do this one, right? Because it's in Italy and, and look at those. And the one thing that sticks out at you with these temples is you'll recognize them from Hollywood films, right? Because they're so well preserved. There's actually 3 of them. And there it is, Paestum there. And I just thought, look at that. I can remember that from which film? Don't shout out all at once. But these temples, the 3 of them, have been used as backdrops in 2 of the most famous films ever made. One was made in 1963 and one was made in 1981. There's a clue, right?
Sid?
And not Elsid.
Ben
No, you've only got one more guess, Margaret. One more. Hang on, Margaret. I'll just give you a clue, right? There was 2 films that are really similar, right?
The Fall of the Roman Empire.
No, you're out, Andy. What films?
Spartacus.
No, Andy, you've got another 2 guesses, Andy.
Ooh, okay. I don't know then.
Oh, go on, you got one more guess. What's that?
Cleopatra, the Cleopatra one.
No, you're guessing now. Come on. Okay, think of flying weird birds in the air.
Oh, Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah, that's the one, Phil.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that was 1963. And an extra
Yes.
point, Will. An extra
Yeah.
point, Will. Will, can you mention the other film out of the two, made in 1981?
No, I stopped watching movies after 1976.
Clash of the Titans.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Ray Harryhausen. Yeah.
So basically, Clash of the Titans, where Perseus fights and kills
Yeah.
Medusa's guardian, a two-headed dog, take place in Pestum. So basically, these temple backdrops, and I just thought, right, I just wanted to mention these because Henry said, just mention these, and I thought I would, right, and when again, it's that thing that we look at this and we think, wow, these are Greek temples, and look how well preserved they are. So
Carl, are they preserved or have they been reconstructed? Oh.
do you know what? I'm gonna pass because
Yeah.
right, okay then. So
It could
right,
be
let's
either,
just
but
yeah. So today the remains of the city are found basically on the outskirts of the modern day Pestum. And it basically goes much of the most celebrated features of the site today are the three temples, dates back to 550 years BC, and there's three of them all together. And the site is actually the whole ancient city was 120 hectares in area. I'm just looking to see, because I was only just going to mention these basically. I'm just trying to work out if they have been reconstructed or not, but it's not saying that they have, right? So, but it's basically says the excellent state of preservation and the city walls and the amphitheater. Oh, I when I was looking at these, Andy, I thought, right, I just thought I want to look at the amphitheater, and there's actually two there, and that's a theater, the other one that we're going to look at. But I looked at this and I thought, my God, that's either in Clash of the Titans or Jason and the Argonaut, where basically a message comes down from the gods and Jason's got to react to it. So that's filmed there as well. So these beautiful backdrops. So it basically is talking about paved roads as well. This huge landscape of archaeology. And again, look at that. And there's two temples of Hera. There's the one temple of Hera, which is the one behind this one, and the second temple of Hera, right? And that's how they reckon it looked. And it's in a pretty good state today, right?
it is amazing.
Well, actually, what I'm going to say, right, as a forensic archaeological thinking, right, none of that looks like it's been reconstructed.
it doesn't. No, I think you're right.
Because there doesn't look like there's earthquake damage, and
No.
it also the problem is, if that would have been reconstructed, a lot more of that would be damaged.
Yeah. The column all intact. So it's good.
Yeah, they look really intact. So if we and look at that, the first temple of Hera, there's you could think that some of the uptablata on the top would actually come down, but obviously we're talking about general general reconstruction.
Yeah.
So this one of the temple of Hera dates back to 600 years BC, right? And obviously Magna Graecia was absorbed by the Roman world, and it's basically one of those things that we don't really sort of talk about when we're looking at Spartacus, for example. Right, I've got. Do you guys? Do you mind if I go on to Wikipedia a minute, because it actually answers Andy's question, right? So it's good to have questions like this. So if we type in the answers actually on Wikipedia. I was just scrolling through that, and the answers actually more or less come up. So if we go to there, we go to Pastum. And if you go down the page and it goes to history. If I can type in history, where's the history? Ah, there, Andy, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that answers your question, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of the this is an etching from 1778, right? And then you've got this here.
Yeah. No,
So this is from 1837. So it basically, despite Stray mentioned the three Doric temples as such, its ruins only came to light in the 1700s. So people, even though this was there, people ignored it. So there were stray mentions about 1524, and it's only because it's being sort of drawn and brought to the Western world in 1778. And it says the complete and relatively simple forms of the temple became influential in early Greek revival architecture. So this is influencing, and obviously, what we're talking about is 17. There's something else interesting here, Andy, which is going to be really interesting. It basically, when you look at this is influencing art alongside the stuff that they're finding in Pompeii. Now, listen to this. In 1740, a proposal was made, but not executed, to remove columns for the new palace in Naples.
right.
Initially, they started thinking about demolishing these temples, so that the kings and queens of Naples could actually use them. And luckily, they didn't. Right. So,
yeah.
when we look at another site today, which is in Morocco, which is a very large city in Morocco, they did actually demolish lots of the temples, and Mohammedan used it in his sort of palace, right? So I just wanted to bring these to you guys because I thought it's an extra little bit, it's an extra string to the sort of to the understanding the history of which would be the Roman world, and obviously looking back into the Greek world, and again that point to be made, that when we look at all of this, we think that we obviously think about the comparison. We think about the comparison between what the Greeks are doing, i.e., they're going out sort of making colonies and stuff, and then you look at the Roman world, a big civilization of conquest.
Interesting to see that the artists of the time were painting these ancient places.
And it's interesting to think that nobody really knew about them in Europe until about the 1700s.
Well, that Velasquez, who painted, you showed a painting by Velasquez, who was Spanish. He painted that in the 1600s.
View of the, I've got that in 1837.
Well, he was an artist in the 1600s.
So that's 1524. Don't you mean Pedro Samonto?
No, Velasquez.
Spanish
artist.
Yeah. I won't argue with you, but my notes are saying it, obviously, as we said then, we're talking about little things coming out. Things coming out in the 1500s, but it's only in the 1700s that people are actually really understanding these things. And it's linked, Margaret, with the excavations at Pompeii and Herculaneum.
Yeah.
With the Queens of Naples. It's like the 1600s, there's a lot of war going on in Europe. It's in the later part of the 1700s that people from Germany and Spain and Britain and France are going on the grand tour, learning about the ancient world.
Yeah.
And so they go to places like this, and then these places are just being rediscovered. And then obviously by the 1800s, the early 1800s, you've got the rediscovery of Egypt as well. So these things are in the backyard. They're in people's minds. And they're Margaret, you'll be interested to see a site that I've got for you today, right, in Britain, that other than me and a few other people, nobody really knows it's there. It's a
Ooh.
4 meter tall Roman wall on the side of a riverbank, right? That's impressively intact, right? And I only found it when I was doing my Roman tour, and around Britain when I was like doing my videos, and little things are still out there that not many people know about.
Mm.
And when I was doing my, I know these are massive temples, but when I was doing my Roman stuff, going around Britain finding things, I was so surprised to actually think, hang on a minute, you go to Bristol, you've got 3 Roman villas, basically 2 in the middle of Bristol, and you can see these things, and you're thinking, well, why don't I know about this thing? Oh, and there's a private Roman villa, so I think it's somewhere in Wiltshire, right? That if you're a member of a certain club, you can see the remains of this Roman villa in the mosaics, but if you're not a member of the club, you can't see it.
Ah.
So yeah, there's a little thing. So obviously, we've got the big temple there. That one is the second Temple of Thera, and that's the first one there. Obviously, about the Clash of the Titans and Jason the Argonaut. And then you've got the other one over here, which is not. The thing is, you've got to dig for that one over there, and that's really impressive. That's the Temple of Athena. And this is over 120 hectare site. It's massive, right? So we've got the second temple of Hera, in the 450s BC, and the first one by probably 600 years BC, and then the one at the back of the mentioned temple of Athena. So you've got these two Hera, and you've got the one at the back, Athena. That's from probably the 500 years BC. And you're looking at the Greeks there. They're finding a colony, Magna Graecia, the great city of the Greeks. And again, one of the things that you feel, and you try to, I think the point. Yeah, the words are in my mind now. I think the best cultures out there are the ones that keep the history and archaeology around them to be influenced by it. For example, the Mohammedans, when they captured Egypt quite early on, in the mid 600s, they basically kept lots of the pyramids and everything intact, right? And then you start to realize that Islam is using lots of this stuff around them to sort of influence their science and stuff, and we're seeing a lot of that in Spain as well. So if we look at cultures like that, and then we look at the Roman world, we can see that the Roman world itself is being influenced by the backdrop of this earlier Greek world, and they're learning from it. And it's societies that are not very successful, that are pulling down and destroying monuments around them, are the ones that seem to leave history quite quickly. So there it is, Pestum there. And it's a massive park. You've got you can see the aerial views there, and look at all the stainings in the grass of all this archaeology. And the amphitheater that I mentioned as well. It's likely there's 2. I think they've got 2 amphitheaters, and obviously the Temple of Athena as well. So we'll move on a moment, and that's the Temple of Athena again. I'm getting confused which film that was in. I think that was Jason and the Argonauts. I think that was the one specifically with the weird winged beasts above. But you could fact check on that one. And Andy, I think if that's been reconstructed, right? That column capital.
It's not been done very well, has it? No.
It's been pretty bad, really. I think it was Irish builders. I'm actually quite surprised that that's not been strengthened.
Yeah,
but
because it does look a bit flimsy, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the entablature there is actually quite good, and obviously the wonderful carving, the marble's gone on the outside, but that's really worn away. But it's really fine work anyway. Again, looking at that Athena as we move away,
done really well to survive, seeing as it's not that far from Vesuvius and earthquakes and things, isn't it?
It's done really well, and you got similar temples in Sicily as well, and it's that's in a massive earthquake zone, and some of those are preserved really well as well. So these are not the only ones. There's some really good ones in Sicily. And again, here are number 2, here are number 1. And again, this sort of this great sense of history as it flows, and it's in a way, when you're looking at this, sort of get this into your mind. In a way, when you're looking at this, you're thinking that, say, if you're down the road in Pompeii, and it's the day before, you've decided to go on a day trip to Pestum, right? And luckily, you didn't get home, and because your home was being, so you lived, right? So good to go there the day before Vesuvius erupts. So you're at Pestum. And when you're thinking about a temple like this, this temple is already over 500 years when you as a tourist are visiting it from Pompeii. Just think that concept is ancient to you, right? And it's obviously 2,000 years on, it's ancient to us. So, 2,500 years on, really. So again, trying to think about that and trying to what people in the Roman era thought about all this. And then you mentioned something else, right? You mentioned the likes of Stonehenge, and you think of what the Romans thought of Stonehenge. We'll talk about that in a moment. So obviously we've got, I thought, the theatres, they've got a couple of theatres in the likes of Pestum, and obviously this could date back to 600 years BC. And again, just think, a little theatre like this, it's not like the Roman theatres, like the Colosseum, like the one, like the ones in Africa. It's nothing like those theatres. Not like the ones in Spain, for example. They're quite low lying, for that sort of lower sense of oratory and so on, and theatre, right? And you're sat here as a Roman, that Roman tourist who's come up from Pompeii before the eruption, right? And you sat there and thinking, my God, this. Did they have a concept that this was built 600 years ago? I think they did, because somebody would say, this has been here for 600 years. The ancient Greeks used to be here, right? So it's that weird concept, sort of reading in between the lines, the sort of Tim Ingold stuff, as all sort of things sort of enter into the consciousness, right? And these things survive. So in a way, even though they're built by the Greeks, they're Roman. That concept, so they're used in the Roman world, so they're Roman, but they were built by the Greeks.
Those stone seats get boiling hot in the summer. You need a cushion to sit on.
And there would have been shades, but not massive shades, right? Because you're not really going to be able to cover this type of expanse. So the ones at the back would be sheltered. And yeah, you are right. So let's look at a bit of theatre, maybe about 7 o'clock in the evening, Margaret. Seats would actually, some of the seats are going to be marble as well. So marble is quite cool, isn't it? But
yeah.
Then again, it's still going to be, you're still going to have a burnt bum.
You are.
They have to have venerated that as well, don't they? Because otherwise they would have robbed it to build their own houses.
Yeah, that's true.
And actually, Andy, you've interfered at the right time, because I missed the Stonehenge bit again, which I was going to mention. So
don't forget Stonehenge, yeah.
Don't forget. The thing is, Andy, you're right. So why didn't the Romans loot Stonehenge to build their towns and cities with? For example, it's in Wiltshire, Andy, right? There's not a lot of stone in Wiltshire, right?
No.
So Stonehenge would have been great. You could have done wonders. You could have dragged it all the way up to Bath, and you'd have done wonders with it. But they didn't demolish Stonehenge, and I think Andy's point of veneration. There's one reference somewhere. I can't remember direct quote, but you probably find it somewhere. There's one reference somewhere that a Roman historian writes about Stonehenge, and it's like, this thing is ancient. Well, it was ancient when, by the time the Romans got here, Stonehenge has been done and dusted for 2,000 years. Think of that. So you're a Roman, and Stonehenge, probably started back. So you're a Roman. It's like, AD 100. right? So you're looking at Stonehenge and the original origins of Stonehenge in the Neolithic period, and you're thinking about 4,000 years ago. And then the Romans are thinking, my God, this thing's ancient. But the Romans had no idea of the concept of the age of Stonehenge, but they knew it was bloody old. But the point is, Andy's right. They venerated it. And Andy, that ties us directly into this. Because one of the things I noted down today, I thought Roman buildings in the empire, and I thought, right, and I was looking for some stuff, and I just we'll call it stuff. I was looking at some stuff, and I don't know how this came up, but I saw this online, and I thought this is the theater of Marcellus, and this is the theater of Marcellus, which isn't too far away from the Colosseum, which is actually used as private accommodation today.
Wow.
Right. So people live in this building. Yeah. Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. People live in this building. And Andy's point of veneration, it was in the 1500s that a family known as the Savelli family built a Renaissance palace directly in the walls of this theater, right? And then there's a link then to Colchester, right? Oh, and by the way, Judith, that's what a Roman road should look like, right? So this reminds me of Colchester, because when you go to Colchester, there's a Greek Orthodox church near the remains of a theatre, sort of more or less in the middle of Colchester, right? And there's a little museum there, and there's a reconstructed drawing that says that the theatre in Colchester looked like this, right? This is probably a bit big, right? But this theatre itself, the semicircular plan of this theatre, is estimated a seating capacity of up to, wait for it, 17,000 people. Obviously, you know, a sixth of the capacity of the Colosseum, but it's still bloody big. And it had it had three tiers of Doric, Ionic, Corinthian columns. That's really important, because a quick history lesson: Doric columns are basically the older Greek world, you know, the sort of 500s BC, and then you've got the Ionic columns. They're starting to come in, you know, by probably about 200 years BC or somewhere, moving back and forth. And they've got the Corinthian columns. This is the Roman style of building, right? So you've got this building which had these representations of columns as it goes up. And people actually live here. And the interesting thing, I think this is on a theatre level, people actually perform plays in there in front. They can't obviously perform plays in there, right? But they perform plays in front. So this was, and there's a British link with this building, right? Because this was, it was initially commissioned by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. 2 years before he died, and was only completed because it was a massive building project in 13 BC by Octavian Augustus. And it was dedicated, right, it was dedicated to Augustus's nephew, Marcus Claudius Marcellus, who had died prematurely. So amazing. I really like this. And also, there's another bit of the history. Before this Savelli family made it into sort of this Renaissance palace that utilizes these sort of marbly walls and stuff and whatever was left, right? Families occupied the ruins, and at one point it was a fortress within Rome itself. So what we've got is, you know, what another image. There you go. Look at that there. You look around the corner. So today the remaining structure showcases the original arches and columns of the theatre's lower levels, providing a glimpse into its grand history. It's a striking example of how an ancient ruin has been adapted over centuries. And I think that ties in with what Andy said and what I said about Stonehenge and all this linking stuff, that if people can respect history and they can absorb it, and they can bring it into their new history, right? And I'm actually, when I look at the Moors, for example, in Spain in the 1400s, lots of Moorish architecture from those damnable Muslims, and the Spanish Inquisition. Most of that architecture remained because it was like the Christians were actually saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, right? This is pretty good stuff, right?" And when we looked at Samarkand last week, that was like Islamic architecture along the Silk Route, and this is the best of civilization when you don't go off demolishing everything and destroying everything. I don't know if you've any of you have seen the film Temple of Heaven, 2005, and not Temple of Heaven. Oh God, I got that. Not Temple of Heaven. Is that film about Jerusalem?
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven. Yes, right. Yeah. 2005, Kingdom of Heaven is a brilliant film, right? It's got loads of massive actors in it, including Orlando Bloom, and basically in that film, right, it talks about the Crusades, and it talks about Orlando Bloom plays this Belial, a short king ruling over Jerusalem. And it's basically there's a quote in the film, which is a powerful quote, where Belial's predecessor, the king of Jerusalem, who's actually got leprosy, meets outside Karash and basically says, "Well, I've got a Christian army, and there's Saladin. I've got an Islamic army," and they meet in the middle of the battlefield, and there's thousands of people on either side. And they meet in the middle of the battlefield, and the king of Jerusalem, who's got leprosy, right, says, "Oh, I will destroy the city, and everybody in it." And Saladin basically says, "Well, I don't want you to destroy the city and everybody in it. We're talking about Jerusalem." And the king of Jerusalem says, "Right. I tell you what, right? I won't." The king of Jerusalem says, "I won't destroy the city, right? I'll keep it intact." And Saladin says, "Okay, well, we come to an agreement, right? Because I want the city intact." Saladin says, because eventually Saladin does capture Jerusalem, and Jerusalem and all the buildings within Jerusalem remain intact, right? This is why we got the Temple Mount and all the rest of it, all these wonderful buildings in Jerusalem, because they've survived, right? Because cultures have realized that Jerusalem is a special place and all the buildings in it are special, right? So we keep them special, right? And it's only in that you actually see humanity working properly to preserve what's there before. And again, back to that I said at the beginning, when societies go into areas and destroy everything that's gone before, those societies are not going to last long. Pol Pot, Cambodia is one good example of that. Didn't last long. So again, looking up at this, we're talking about back to Theatre of Marcellus, and we're looking up, and we're looking underneath the marble was the brick, right? And obviously some of the marble's gone from the outside naturally because it's been a long time. Oh, and by the way, that's another thing, right? When you go into the 900-1000s and so on in Rome, the best lime is lime created from marble. So to create St. Peter's Square and all the rest of it in Rome, and the Vatican and all the rest of it, they take the cladding, they take the marble cladding off the Colosseum and here and lots of other buildings, which makes the best lime. And but the buildings nevertheless do survive. And there it is. That's reconstruction. So again, this leads us back to Camel and Dunham Colchester, and it's like thinking, I'm squinting my eyes and thinking, bloody hell, it looks like the reconstruction at Colchester. But the one at Colchester is naturally smaller. So this has got a 17,000 capacity. Maybe the one at Colchester's got more like a couple of thousand capacity. It's smaller, but it looks similar. the reconstruction, right? So what you've got is the majority of the lower columns, the Doric and Ionic orders, and the upper stuff has been naturally decayed over time. So if we can go back to the original image, right? So lots of the upper stuff is gone, right? But it's difficult to work out from the upper stuff. Maybe some of it may have survived. It's difficult to say. Anyway, so there it is. Oh, and also this is the thing. When you go to Rome, right, you've got the Pantheon there, right? The Trevi Fountain, exactly. You've got the Colosseum, right? And obviously the Circus Maximus, we mentioned that earlier on. You've got all the stuff in the middle. You've got Trajan's Column and all these other things, right? So I tell you what, and also you've got that multi-story block of flats, with those tenement flats that you see in Rome. So again, I thought I'd chuck that in now. I was going around the Roman world. There it is. It talks about the Temple of Marcellus, the theater of Marcellus, if I call it a temple, I'm sorry. Theater of Marcellus, unique building, modern elements from the past, serving as a historical site that houses private apartments. Wow. Upper floors. It surrounded is used for concerts, as it said. Apartments there. And again, it's one of those key places that people go to. And you know what? It takes you a little bit of digging to find these things. And there's also a link to do with London, right? There's two links to do with London, right? I got a friend called Karen, right? We went to the British Museum, and I met Karen off the train with her son, and she said, how do we find the British Museum now? And I had a map of Roman London. And we tried to use this map of Roman London to find the British Museum. It didn't go down well, folks. But there's a fact there. When I obviously started my professional acting in 2011, I thought every time I go to London, I'm going to visit a Roman site in London. I never got around to visiting many at all, right? But there's so much. If anyone's ever got a trip to London and they just want to do a Roman trip to London, there's loads of it. Only if you plan it in advance, right? And it's you can't just go to London and think that you're going to see these things. There's a couple of temples underneath shops and multi-story blocks of flats, bits of walls, bits of gateway, Barbican. You've got the Temple of Mithras. You've got all these bits of wall. And you can't do a trip to London and want to see the stuff in the middle of London, the Roman stuff in the middle of London, without Rome in the middle of stuff. Right, start again. If you go to Rome, you can't plan a trip to Rome and not have it planned out. You can't go to London to see the Roman stuff. You can't not have it planned out, because that's what you've got to. You've got to plan to see all these places. Otherwise, you're going to be severely disappointed. Right, so last week I showed you the cover of a book. And the book cover, okay, well, I've given it away. Judith, had you worked it out?
Yes, I had. If you look at the message on the YouTube thing before I managed to log in, I'd already guessed it.
Right. So was it easy to find?
Yes, it was in the book I was looking at last week. And
right,
it's almost an identical picture. So that must be the most paved part of it.
Yeah, well, it is. But then again, you go to that. And it's so obviously it needs a bit of weeding. But there it says black. What I want to do, I don't really want to cover this today, because I want us sometime in the future to do Roman roads in Britain, which will be done and dusted in one evening. But Blackstone Edge on Risworth Moor near Manchester is remarkable, well preserved, with rain gullies smack bang through the middle, and close fitting cobble still intact. Some archaeologists believe it to be of Roman origin, whilst others are less convinced, and they believe it was. It's only a mile long, right? And you're just thinking, what? It's got nice cobbles on either side, you know, it's well, whatever, and you've got the channel in the middle. And some people believe, well, it was probably built in the 1700s, but there's no record of it being constructed in the 1700s. That's the trouble, right? but it's nice to think that this is Roman. It really, really is, but it's not, right? But there's another road in Britain which is obviously another location altogether, and they discuss it there, and I think it's discussed here that there may have been existing tiled Roman route here, and it was just like they decided to add to it, but I'm not convinced of that either. But yeah, you're right. This is Blackstone Edge, and on the book Roman Conquest Britain by Simon Elliott, that's exactly where we're at. So yeah, good one.
Carl,
So
sorry, a quick question on that one. Why has it got a rain gully in the middle?
Well, it's on a hill, right? And they
Yeah, but traditionally it's domed, isn't it? The cross section is domed, and it has ditches on either side for that reason. So why
it's cambered? Yeah. So basically, a typical Roman road is cambered.
Yeah.
So you've got the agate, you've got a ditch on either side, right? So that takes away the water.
That's collecting the water, though, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking. That looks more deliberate, so it's really weird.
So and the other thing I do know about roads is that the place where roads are the first and the middle of the road, right? So whenever you go down trackways, for example, I've been down lots of trackways on mountains, and the middle of the road you usually got is the eroded first, right? But when you're thinking about that, that's sort of a more of a British concept. This is not a Roman concept.
Perhaps it's for the animals to slurp from as they're trotting along.
Oh, yeah. It's bloody raining. So I don't want to do any more of this, but I think the school of thought on the Roman period is that you're either this didn't make it quite simple. You're either the type of person who believes there's loads of Roman roads in Britain with nice surfaces like this, right? And there's not. Oh, that's it. Then there's those that know there's not. So you've got ones that believe that this is Roman and those that don't. And those are the two schools of thought in Roman roads in Britain. And I just get really kerfuffled, which is a word I've used for ages. I get really kerfuffled. The biggest achievement of the Romans in Britain is creating Roman roads. And well, if that's the case, then they didn't do a lot. Moving on, folks. So then I back to this Roman thing again. Well, we're just doing Roman stuff anyway. Back to Roman buildings. I went. There's a Roman villa. And I'm just gonna ask a wonderful person in the background called Michelle. Can we have a cup of tea, please? Yeah. There's a Roman villa in Africa, right, which is basically intact. And strangely enough, I come across this one, which is not in Africa, right? But look at that. Look at that for a Roman villa. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a corker, right? But when I was doing my research on this, I just thought, there's not a lot out there, I thought there was, but this is one of the most visited Roman sites in the whole of Italy, and I'd never come across it, right? So the name of this site, if I can get my notes up in front of me, the name of this site is, here we go, and it says this is the, it just had it in front of me there. It's the 25th most visited Roman site in Italy, right? But it's actually, again, it's not in Africa. This is known as the Villa or the Grottos of Catullus. Catullus. Now, there's the reconstruction there. And obviously, yeah, Margaret, you got a marble. So if that's the reconstruction, so that's going to be like a marble floor there, and they've got like this sort of tent-like roof to keep you cool. And you're thinking about, look at that, and where it is, it's on a spit of land between Milan and Venice in northern Italy. I kid you not. I just thought, right, okay, how the hell have I managed to get here? So, and you look and you think, look at the preservation of that building. Wow. Yes, Andy, I do believe that bits of that look like they may have been reconstructed, but it's difficult to tell, right? And I just thought, look at that. It looks very medievalish, but no, this is the grottos of Catullus. And can I just make a point there? There's a link to do with Edward I. How do I get the link with Edward I? Because lots of the architecture that was around, for example, in the Holy Land and across Europe, architecture was left behind by the Romans. And some of the, if you look at Carnarvon Castle in North Wales, it looks very Roman, right? But it's not. It's built by St. John the Mason in the 1290s, right? And it's basically you've got stone, you've got red brick banding, you've got stone red brick banding. So lots of architecture around in the medieval period influenced medieval architecture, particularly building castles, right? So you can get why this looks like a castle when it's not. This was built possibly sometime around 50 years BC and was completed by around AD 50. Amazing. So the archaeological, this complex of archaeology, and you're looking at that and you're thinking, oh my God, no wonder it said grottos. So grottos, sort of typical with trees and sort of water courses and pools and ponds and stuff. So the archaeological complex. Oh, by the way, I did a column for the local newspaper about a grotto in Barry from the 1700s, but that with water courses and stuff, but never looked anything like this. So the complex, it is which always remains uncovered, which remain like this complex slowly become uncovered over time, right? And people started looking at this in the 1400s. Today, it is the most valuable testament of the Roman period in this part of northern Italy, and it's got its own little museum as well. And it's basically the name of this comes. It's probably nothing to do with Catullus. Now, Catullus was actually a historian, right? So the name dates to the 1400s, and the rediscovery of Catullus, work by Catullus, and Catullus was Gaius Valerius Catullus, died in 54 BC. So it's named after him because the poet describes a house, and this could be the house that inspired Catullus in one of Catullus's poems. So it's named after Catullus. Its remains there still visible, although mostly covered with vegetation and buried to the point that it looks like a cave in places. You know, it's really interesting. And again, Margaret, this links us in with the Grand Tour, because this structure started influencing Italian architecture in the latter part of the 1500s. So then that goes into the 1600s, and that goes into something known as Italian architecture by the 1600s. So specifically based on this, not the stuff in southern Italy, like Paestum and and Pompeii, because it's not even in the mix yet. But by about the 1600s, what we've basically got is this influences a resurgence of Italian Nate architecture in Britain in the 1600s. So I thought I'd mention that. It's quite an important site, to be honest with you, and linking in with the rediscovery of Catullus's poems in the 1400s. That sort of, hence why he mentions this building. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, maybe it's another, but it's on a spit of land. So, and again, I just want to make that point. It looks very castle-like, but it's not. It's one of the things that the Romans were good at was building their walls and making their structures solid. So you can get an idea why that then influences the likes of medieval architecture later. And there it is. Look at that there. Very thick walls and the concrete mix that they're using to enable these things to last a very, very long time. Now, I'm really not sure whether we should do this now or we should have a break, right? Because I'm probably thirsty and I want a bit of sourdough bread, right? And Will, you're welcome in the break to if you've got anything that you want to get off your chest about any of your Roman stuff, you can have a chat about that in the break. By the way, Will, you don't know this, Will, but you're now the entertainment in the break for these classes. Thanks for volunteering for that, Will.
Yeah.
So I just wanted oh, and by the way, I mentioned to Will, maybe me and Will should have a little bit of an evening talking about specifically a bit of other Roman stuff. If anyone's interested, but we still got to plan that in the near future. And also, I was also thinking that this might interest, and we will talk about this image in a moment, right? So, because I'm just double checking to see, I've got a fair bit to get through tonight, so I might do volubilis in a moment, right? This is volubilis. I'm getting a lot of people writing to me now about different things to do with archaeological sites and stuff, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it might be a bit of a forum to sort of talk about these things which are not to do with what we're doing on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So I'm still thinking about that. I'll call it Action TV with Karl-James Langford and whoever wants to join us. So when I was doing my research, I was looking at I was looking for a Roman villa in Morocco, right? And I didn't exactly get to the Roman villa, but I got to this instead. So this is rather interesting. So it takes our minds to Morocco, right? And you're thinking, oh yeah, all right then. The Romans got to Morocco. We know they got to Tunis, and we know they got to Carthage and Algiers, yeah. But I just thought that maybe I would just. Oh, not these. We're not doing that yet. Doing that after the break. I just thought of that, and I just thought, wow, look at these ruins. And also, guys, this is in Morocco. Look at all the sand. It's everywhere, you know. Very, very, very rich and sort of green place, Morocco, isn't it? You always think it's like a sandy desert. So, Volubilis, it's only partially excavated. This is quite weird. It's a Berber Roman city, right? A Berber Roman city that was once a thriving Roman outpost and a potential capital of the Kingdom of Mauritania. Mauritania was like its own empire at one stage. Remember when we're talking about the Carthaginians and we're talking about the Mauritanians and all the rest of it? So, but this was way back. This was way back. So. Way forward, I should say, way forward into the Roman world. So the archaeological site is famous for its exceptionally well-preserved Roman ruins, including impressive mosaics, rows of statues of Lloyd George, and numerous buildings from the years into AD 200s. And there's a link to do with Caracalla. Again, he gets everywhere, this Caracalla. Caracalla, this supposed total nut job, from 211 to 217, he had an arch erected to him in this outpost of the Roman world, Volubilis. And it might be sort of a link to do with Leptis Magna and his dad, who had actually, Septimus Severus, had actually come from Africa, not just down the road, a bit further down the road toward Tunis, but it's not the point. So the site itself was originally created by the Carthaginians. And again, it made itself into a history by about AD 40. It had been basically a pseudo capital of the Mauritanian Empire under King Juba II, but the Romans annexed the Mauritanian Empire by AD 40. And in its heyday, I don't know if we got any more images. No, we don't. I should have got more images up here. In its heyday, Volubilis, nice name, Volubilis, Volubilis, Volubbilis, Volubilis, was a prosperous Roman city, and you can see some really good views from aerial photography, and likely had a population of 20,001 inhabitants. And was a vital source of grain and olives for Rome. So we're just thinking, right, really? Interesting. So again, what we're doing, we're looking at barren Africa, right? Nothing happens in Africa, right? It bloody well does. You know, you've got some really great granite and some precious stones from Egypt, and the basket of grain coming from Egypt. But Mauritania is on the other side of Africa, at the coast of Africa, and you're thinking that this actually provided olives and grain for Rome as well. Amazing. You think it's like a barren desert, but it's not. It's green. It's lush. However, one weird thing was, now this is interesting. This is all interesting, but the one weird thing was that after building these wonderful mosaics and a basilica and triumphal arches and walls around it, aqueducts, all these other things, right? In AD 285, the Romans just abandoned it. They just walked away. So the local population that was there thought, hang on a minute, where's the Romans gone? Right, Romans, they're gone. So the local people took over the city, but it sort of was largely abandoned by the 1100s. Now, there's two reports about what I'm just about to tell you. If you look at Volubilis, it basically says that obviously by the probably by about 700-800s, this had come into the realm of Islamic influence, right? So if you look at one source, it basically says that the Islamic Caliph of the era decided to demolish loads of the buildings in the mid 1700s to use the material for his palace. But if you listen to this, the site suffered damage from a 1755 earthquake and was later pillaged for building materials. Well, if all the stuff is lying on the ground, you're not demolishing stuff, are you? You're just taking it away to be used in your palaces. So I thought that was interesting. So the other point as well, we only started really understanding about this site. And again, Andy, I don't know what's been reconstructed and what's not, which is obviously a problem. I want to talk about that briefly before we finish this part. So excavations began in the 1830s and accelerated during the French Protectorate. I think the point is, when you go to Hard Knot Fort, and it's a really nice day, you can look at Hard Knot, and it's got a little black line going through the remains at Hard Knot, and it basically said, I think, Andy, if you can correct me on this, it was excavated in the 1920s. So it basically says this bit, it was the height of the walls in the 1920s, and this little black line indicates the stuff that's been raised from that moment.
Yeah. Right.
So they indicated, and Andy, I think that's absolutely brilliant, where we know what's been reconstructed and what hasn't.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel we should do a lot more of that, because when I used to do excursions and stuff, I used to get very excited. Say, oh my God, look at this. And it's like thinking, but this is not what it always looked like, right? For example, when you go to Viraconian Wroxeter, you've got the Thamea wall at Viraconian Wroxeter, and you've got the Thamea wall in the middle of Arate, which is Leicester as well. You've got the Thamea wall, these big thick walls. That's not been reconstructed. None of that's been reconstructed. It's as it was, right? But how much has been reconstructed at the bars at Ravensglass, right? It makes me wonder that. How much of that has been reconstructed? Or was it always like that, right? That's a big question. So I think the answer is it hasn't been reconstructed. But then again, how do you know, right? And the problem is when people reconstruct things. For example, Andy, there's a local castle in Barry. It's called Barry Castle. And when I used to look at the old photographs of Barry Castle before the 1950s, It used to be overgrown. And then when they used to clear it, there was like a bit of wall, and it was a gap, and there was a bit of wall, right? Well, somebody thought, right, that the wall itself went at angles, right? So indicating that there's a room north of that wall, and there's a room. So basically, right. So what somebody did, I draw this on you so people know. So we've got a bit of wall there, right, and we've got a bit of wall there, right. So somebody thought that that gap was actually a wall that went at an angle. So basically, the wall went like that, right? But it turned out that it wasn't like that at all. It turned out that the wall just continued. Unfortunately, Andy, because the site's now a scheduled ancient monument, that there is now a feature of the monument, and you cannot remove it. And that is poor reconstruction. And one other thing about poor reconstruction is a really big point that Andy's making. Really, when you think about reconstruction, that what was reconstructed in the past, is that reconstruction there where the brick is put between the column, or is when they had an earthquake in the past and that's what they did? So we've got all these problems of the past. When is the past, and when is the past today? And it's like I used to be a reenactor, Andy, right? And we used to our reenactment stuff was really good. So we used to use use Brown Bess muskets. And I'm trying to get off this now. I'm trying to stop the share. We used to use Brown Bess muskets, and occasionally the flints that we used to use in the Brown Bess muskets used to fall out, and used to fall out in the long grass, right? So we're reenactors from the 1990s, right? And we're having miniature battles on outside castles. Balls over Castle was a good one. We had a little battle outside Balls over Castle, and we used to lose our flints, right? Accurate looking flints. So in future generations, people are going to find these flints and think, "Oh my God, there was a battle here," right? But it wasn't. There was a reconstruction battle in 1990, not in 1780, right? And that's a problem with history. Sometimes we get things wrong, and reconstruction is an important thing that we cannot get wrong, but it's got wrong lots of times. And and how it's done is important as well. I remember I've gone off on one. I remember I was watching this thing about the Cairo Museum, and they had this conservator on the Cairo Museum, and she was under so much pressure you could see her sweating, right? And she was reconstructing a face, and she pushed a little bit hard up against this face, which was a mask on it, and the whole thing collapsed on the screen. As she desperately forgot that she was being filmed and tried to glue it all on. Oh my God, what a mess! Right. Reconstruction needs to be done properly. Right, okay, we're having a break now. We're having a break. We got a few more things to get through, right? So, Will, you're welcome. You've got 15 minutes to have a good old chat if you want. But let's see if there's anything that anyone wants to talk about. Margaret.
Well, that lovely ruin that you just showed in Morocco.
Monopolis.
What was it called?
Monopolis.
Yeah. Do you know, it could be a Romanesque abbey in Britain, couldn't it? The architecture that we had after the Norman conquest, when they built all the abbeys. They're built in that Romanesque style. And
that's what Romanesque means, exactly. Yeah. Not to sound patronizing, but that's what Romanesque means.
Yeah. So it looks just the same as an abbey, a ruined abbey here. Can I be very naive? I'm not. I don't.
You can be naive. That's why we're here. I'm naive sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to naively ask. In Britain, we have the royal residences where the royal family stay, their various estates and palaces.
This is controversial. It's not to do with Andrew, is it?
No, don't mention the A.
Okay.
In Rome, did the emperors live in, did they go into the same palaces, or did they have their own villas outside the city?
Caracalla absolutely hated the center of Rome, and Caracalla had been Caesar regent for nearly a whole decade. Oh no, hang on, no, no, about 20 years. I got to look at my chart. Yeah, he was given whilst his dad was out warring and stuff. Caracalla had a villa built outside Rome. Right, he hated Rome, so Caracalla's villa outside Rome was so bloody huge. It had its own underground everything, right? It was massive, right? Hadrian had his own thing built.
Oh, I know he did, yeah.
So it's like Diocletian had one built as well. So lots of these big emperors did the same thing, and
so they didn't have the equivalent of a Buckingham Palace then that they all would live in at some point.
Technically, love, you as an emperor, you should be at the Capitoline Hill in Rome, right? But it was not the place that lots of people wanted to be. You know, it was where Nero played the fiddle. You know what I mean? And it went up in flames. So actually, you should be asking me another question, right? You should be asking me another question. Where did the governor of Britain have his palace? That's what you should be asking me. And that would be a very difficult question for me to answer, because we don't know. Because what sometimes when we think about the governor of Britain, right? The governors of Britain, this is why it's so important for you to all have a copy of the Romans in South Wales, because it got a list of governors in there, right? And we could think about Aulus Paulus, who was one of the earlier governors, and we think, well, where did he base himself? Maybe he had a villa built, you know. So when Time Team think about they find a big villa, or somebody else finds a big villa like Woodchester, right? We've got massive mosaics, and they're actually in the church graveyard, right? So they can't dig any graves in the church graveyard because they go through a mosaic, right? So or Fishbourne, or all these other places where you've got these palaces. Yeah, and they always say, "Oh, that's where the governor must have lived," right? But technically, the governor should be in Londinium. But by about the 320s, we've got, or thereabouts, we've got the demolition of the huge basilica, the big state control location in Londinium, right? So where is governance actually occurring from in Britain? And the answer is really difficult to understand.
Okay.
And then when you talk about Roman emperors, for example, Septimus Severus in 211, he was based in York. York became the center of the earth. It was the earth evolved around Eboracum, York, for a few months, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the earth evolved, right? To the Romans, that is. That's where the earth evolved. In York, Eboracum, right? Where the governor and the emperor would have stayed in Eboracum when the emperor was there, we don't know, right? We don't know, but there must have been a place big enough for the emperor and his hundreds of members of his entourage to have stayed in York whilst the emperor was in Britain. He would have had hundreds of members of staff. Now that would be a place to find, but we have got no idea. But could it have been in York? It's unlikely it would have been in York. It would have been outside York, right? The villa. Think about it, right? I've never ever talked about this in my life before, but it's an issue. We've got the Roman emperor coming to Britain, and he's basing himself in York, right? There's going to be no building in Eboracum, York, to be able to take the Roman emperor, right? They would have had a few months to prepare a brand new building of a structure outside Eboracum, York, right, to accommodate the emperor. And the reason why I say that is that, what is that wall named after between Scotland and England? Hadrian's Wall. We're told by historians that Hadrian's Wall was constructed and tried to be completed for the visit of Emperor Hadrian. Whether that's true or not is a bone of contention. But if they were building Hadrian's Wall for the visit of Emperor Hadrian, so that they could say, we've done something, right? We're looking at a massive, huge palace outside Eberach in York that we don't know where it is, which accommodated the Roman emperor and then the new Roman emperors, Geta and Caracalla, and then Caracalla for a short period of time. There's a find.
So
There's an answer to your question.
So do you know how many emperors actually lived in Rome then?
After the answer is quite clear. After about the 300s, very few, because after 337, the Rome itself was now being governed. The Roman Empire was now being governed from, after 337, was being governed from Constantinople and Ravenna, which is in northeastern
And
Italy,
Milan,
right?
Milan as well.
So it's not the place that the Roman emperors want to be. Why would a Roman emperor want to be in a city which has got 1 million people? And the sanitation has gone down the hill. The Tiber stinks of human excrement every single day of the week. Why would you want to be there? You know, it's Rome was not a nice place to be. My God, that's a big answer to a question. Right. Okay, Judith.
Hello.
Yeah,
I've got
we're
no
here.
questions, thank you. Sorry, I've got no questions, thank you.
You've ruined my life. You've let me down. Let's move on to Andy.
No, I'm good, thanks. That's you've shown me a couple of sites I didn't even know existed that are massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, I can't get over that.
Mm.
And we've only touched upon these, and that's the point. There's so many more to think about. Look, the stuff in Germany's great, right? And you think what? Trier, and you think Nijmegen, and there's stuff in Germany that we need to look at. But and then you think about, what about Roman remains in Switzerland? And you're thinking, right, many. But it's bound to a point that somebody mentioned earlier on. The reason, if we don't have roads and railways being built across Cumbria, then we're not going to find the archaeology. End of. And that's it. There's a point there. There's a really interesting point, because years ago there used to be an archaeologist who was a prodigy, a prodigal of archaeology, right? And in 1956, he was looking around the castle, right, in the Vale of Glamorgan, right, and he found £600 in a little metal box, right. This guy called Howard Thomas, 1956, and it enabled him to go to university, right, with that money in the box, right, and you know, and he used to have a little bike, a little bicycle, right? So as he was building up to go to university, right, he would ride around the Vale of Glamorgan and he would find all these Roman sites, but there was no Roman sites the other side of the Vale of Glamorgan. There was none north of the Vale of Glamorgan. There was none in the valleys, you know. So what we've got a massive catchment of Roman sites. With the distance, he was able to ride his bike and to come home in that same day, right? And then for years and years and years, people used to say, oh, there's a massive concentration of Roman sites around Barry. That's because he didn't get to the others. And it's still the same situation. It's the bias of the researcher and the researchers to find the archaeology. If nobody's out going looking for it, they're not going to find it. And that is the out of Africa thing all over. When the Leakeys started going to Africa in the 1920s, the Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, and all that area, right? They went out to find the origins of human evolution, right? If they'd have done the same in Mongolia, they'd have come up with the same answer. It's that they were in Africa and not Mongolia. It's where you go and research. I'm not saying if they'd gone to Australia and done the same thing, or they'd gone to Britain and they did the same thing. We've gone through that, but it's those two areas, and that's what archaeology does. Right, Will, before we have a quick break, 15-minute break, because I'm going to need it. I want some. Do you know what I was going to say? I wanted Anne to be on tonight. I would have said, Anne, I'm going to eat some sour bread, and she would have worshipped me online, right? But she's not yet. Right, Will, anything you want to say?
The Romans accepted every faith in terms of who people worshipped. When you talked about Stonehenge, they recognized the fact that the Druids, who were very powerful, and the tribal peoples, tribal in quotes, followed their own religion. The Romans were conquerors initially, but they were negotiators. They gave people the right to run their own country, but they had armies to maintain, collect taxes, and they had governors to oversee these people. But the religions, they accepted the fact that these places were appreciated. They didn't take them down. They didn't reuse the material. And they had their own concepts of buildings and design, and they stuck with it. Right? So that's evident. The other side of it, sorry,
Go on.
Roman soldiers, all right. The quality of the Roman soldier, reading Caesar and reading some stuff I've read recently, the quality of the Roman soldier went down by 75% from the first soldiers of Rome, who were Romans, versus the auxiliaries who were not Romans, who were not trained as effectively and were not as passionate or dedicated to supporting Rome.
To the belief of Rome, yeah.
Okay, so the point is, the Roman army went down in standards. They lost a number of battles because of the quality of the fighter was very poor compared to the tribal peoples. Time Team had something on about the 9 AD, the wiping out of 20,000, 30,000 men
Varus in the
in
Teutoburg Forest, yeah.
yes, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the soldiers. But again, recognize as Rome declined, because you had corruption. You had corruption throughout the Roman Empire. Rome was corrupt itself from the day one. It was corrupt. People had to pay and bribe people to get anywhere. At 200 AD, everyone was considered, if you were in a Roman-held
Yeah,
country,
211. That
you
was
were a
a
Roman
proclamation
citizen.
of Caracalla. Yeah,
You were given Roman citizenship. So everyone was a
exactly.
Roman. So you couldn't say, well, I'm British and I'm going to fight the Romans. Well, no, you're a Roman citizen now. Yeah, it's verbatim. So these are developments that came out.
Exactly. Agreed.
I'll leave it there.
Agreed. That is, and one thing we think about Bath, Aqua Sulis, and we think about the amalgam of the local worship and Rome. That's born out there. So what we're going to do, you can have a chat and do whatever you like, guys, for the next 15 minutes. I'm gonna have some sour bread, and we'll be back. I tell you what, we'll make it back at 8:55. So go on then, cups of tea, go for it, and have a chat and whatever. Judith, Will wants to talk to you about that road. Go for it.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm going to get a cup of tea in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
Judith, Wade's Causeway.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I've put on Rumney Virtual Tours International and Global, a video I created over the weekend, which tracks Malton to Whitby, and the reference to Wade's Causeway, which I read about in about 4 different books that were written between 1750 and 1850, 1903, 1911, somewhere in there. And the fact that the dispute says, yeah, it might be applied to Warda, who was was a British chieftain of whichever type, it might have been the Brigantes, rather than Roman road. But I tried, after the last conversation we had a week ago or so, to track the Roman road from Malton, which is covered in Codrington's information, 1903, from Malton all the way up to Whitby. And I put together, using Google Earth, I looked at every stretch of the route and looked at the fact, where did the Romans camp? They didn't necessarily walk 20 miles every day. Sometimes the Romans only walked 2 miles or 3 miles a day. And if you've got 5,000 men, the question is, how do you move 5,000 people in the rain piddling down, and wagons and animals, etc., etc., etc. So not every journey was a 20-mile forced march from point A to point B to fight a battle. sometimes it was shorter journeys and they camped on the way. So they had to provide some defenses necessarily, depending on where they were. So I don't know if you've looked at Rumney Virtual Tours, but if you do, you'll see the last video I put up there, plots over a 30-minute time scale. That, in addition to which, a number of photographs from the 1850s, 1855, which I colored online, Palette FM, of different sites around Yorkshire. In Yorkshire, this is all about Yorkshire. And I put in various snippets of road maps from Codrington and from one or two other people who did road maps. So the question is the causeway there? Is it visible from the sea? Wharfdale, what's the
Oh,
place?
you've frozen.
I'm frozen. Okay, I've
Oh,
just changed.
hello.
Yeah, hang on. I've just
Oh, is my internet gone again?
uh,
Are you there?
well, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, you froze about 30 seconds ago.
Right. That's because I maybe opened something else.
Ah,
I opened up a file folder. I might just disappear for a minute.
okay.
Okay.
I've got your Rumney virtual tours on my phone and I can't see a new video.
The last one, if you look at the latest one, I posted it 2 days ago. Malton,
The
Malton to
last
Whitby.
the last one I've got here is Rumney War Memorial, World War II video.
No, that's Rumney. Oh, sorry. You need Rumney Virtual Tours, international and global. I've got two
Oh,
different
heck, I'm
sites.
on the wrong
One
one.
is
Right.
the one is originally Rumney stuff. The international goal, because I've done 73 videos of book extracts and the history of steel, not just in Britain, but in America and Germany and some other bits and places. But
Right. I'll have
look at
to.
the international global, and you'll find I've got a whole slew of stuff now that deals with Gethlige Roman site, for instance, which I'm still working on bits and pieces. But this whole thing from the Roman road from Malton relative to the Dursley, I guess it is, just outside of Whitby, just northwest of Whitby, Dursley, I think it is.
Well, let me find your new channel and I'll start having a look. Virtual tours, international and
Global, yeah, there's a hyphen in between. So Rumney Virtual Tours, hyphen for international and global. And you'll find the last video I did because I was inspired by the commentary about Wade's Causeway. And I've got some other items
found you. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. So I plotted on the Google Earth map potential camps, because basically what I've done is by looking at
Sorry, my husband's just walked in and started talking.
I was talking about her. You just said
All right, can you just wait 30 seconds, please? Sorry.
It's all right. Your spouse is important. You gotta.
Well, he's talking to the dog apparently.
Anyway, I'm going to get a cup of tea anyway.
Yeah. All right. I'll have a look at all your videos. Brilliant.
All right. And we'll come back to it. I'll come back to you, Andy. I'm going to go get a mug of tea. Andy, where are you located? You're in Cumbria somewhere?
I might have to switch my mic on there. Yes, yeah, I'm in a little place called Arnside, top end of Morecambe Bay, with Margaret and Drina and Anne.
Or near Morecambe Bay? Okay.
It's top end of Morecambe Bay. If you look at the map of Britain with Morecambe Bay, we're right at the very top. So,
Right. I wouldn't know it necessarily directly, and my
no,
experiences of Cumbria are limited to, as I say, a long time ago.
so it's right at the south of Cumbria, basically.
Below Barrow and Furness.
Yeah, Barrow in the Furnace is the top of the bay, and it kind of goes like that, and
Okay.
we're there. So
Right.
literally
Yeah,
on the Lancashire borders.
I went to Barrow and Furness, had to get the train there from somewhere I was in the middle of England, singing with a choir, and then they got dropped off somewhere, caught a train, got off in Barrow and Furness, and then got the train up to Eskdale, local line up to up to Eskdale, local, the small village of Eskdale.
Yeah. Get up to Ravenglass and onto the. Did you go up on the little Ravenglass and Eskdale railway up to Eskdale?
No, never. I didn't experience that. I didn't
Oh,
experience that. I say I was there for the Outward Bound stuff, and
yeah,
so
I know that centre. I've been there. So.
yeah,
Still going strong.
Well, it's going strong? Are they still doing Outward Bound? Because
as far
I
as I
don't
know,
see
they
Outward
are.
Bound.
Yeah.
It's they're still doing it. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter was there 2 years ago. So
Okay.
with because she was a bit annoyed because she's down on the south coast working for BAE, British Aerospace.
Right.
And they had one of their graduate apprentice things. So they got the whole group together, and they decided to go somewhere different. So they went to the Lake District. She said, "But I live there."
All right.
It's not different to me, she said. So she had a week up there doing all sorts of things.
Fair enough. Yeah. Interesting, challenging, certainly.
Yeah.
And they do a psychological assessment on you. That was why I know that's why I was there. It was a psychological assessment, and you get to sit down with the guy I was there at the time. Who was our group leader. Was a guy by the name of Chizza. Chizza. That was his nickname, Chizza. Now I can't remember his real name. I've got it somewhere in a photograph, and but it's been many years since I've actually looked at it. But his nickname was Chizza, and that's what we called him. But he was a short guy, red beard, red hair. He was in his. I was just turned 18 at that point, going on 19.
Yeah.
And he was in his 30s, graduate or undergraduate of Oxford or whichever happened to be.
Yeah.
But part military background. He had some training.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting time, interesting building.
Yes.
Nice grounds.
Yes, very nice. I love Eskdale. It's really lovely. There's good hills and mountains behind and around it, and it's nice and quiet. It's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's this, Will?
That's out in Eskdale.
Oh, yes, my brother
Cumbria.
went there.
Yeah,
the outdoor education training centre.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah, yes, he went there. Maybe he was there the same time as you, Will.
Well, I was there in 1972.
Oh, no, he would have been before then.
Okay.
He'll be 80 this year, so yeah, it would have been back in the 60s, I'm thinking.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that centre still there, Andy?
Yeah. Tilly went to it last 2 years ago.
Yeah. Do you know there was Scafell Pike is the highest mountain in England.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a report. They said, don't go up there. There's no cafe. When you get to the top, there's nothing there.
No, there isn't.
You climb really all of that way and there's no cafe.
Yeah, it's a really boring walk up there and all.
Pardon?
I said it's a really boring walk up there as well, Scafell. But it is the highest mountain. There is a good view from the top.
Yeah.
Imagine climbing Scafell Pike with a 60-pound pack on your back,
Oh no.
camping in November in the Pike,
Uh,
two guys in a small tent, two guys in another tent next to you. The tent blows away in the middle of the night. It's gales of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour,
yeah.
fiddling down with rain, and we've got to get four guys in a little tent to survive the night before we can go back down and go to our next stop.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I'll give that a miss. Yeah.
Turns
I-
boys into men.
Well, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Can I beat that when we went at near Pen y Fan, as you at the top of the mountain there in the Brecon Beacons. There's a place called Story Arms, and I used to go outward bound in there when I was young, when I was about 13 or 14. So we went out in the middle of nowhere, right, on its outward bound thing, right, and we ended up in a field, and we thought, right, okay, we were bivouacking, right,
Yeah.
so we had ended up in an MOD practice range, right? And there was all these weird figures going off in the background, and we thought, oh my God, there's something not quite right here. Anyway, we all snuggled in our bivouacs. It only turned out it was an SAS training mission, right? So we had all these individuals surrounding the camp, right? And we were petrified, right? And eventually we all went to sleep. And in the morning, right, we all went to cook something, and somebody had only peed in the bloody fuel, right? Because it was a petrol thing, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have anything to warm ourselves up. So the moral of the story is, don't go anywhere on an outward bound course where there's an MOD training thing where people pee in the fuel. There you go.
Absolutely. Good moral there.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, let's crack on. Now this one is for Margaret.
Oh.
I do listen. Where are we? Where are the things? Images? Come on. Oh God, I'm giving something away. Right. Okay. So there's a big reveal coming up. Right. As we well know, these are the Broch sites in Orkney and Shetland, and that clearly is in Orkney, and because that one's the Broch at Musa. But unfortunately, I've just been telling a fib. These are actually in Sardinia. These are known as nurags. And Margaret said, what about the nurags? And actually, other than the fact that doesn't totally look like a Broch, however, that looks like a Broch. Like this. Like that looks like a Broch. Right, these are in Sardinia, and Margaret thought, oh, we got to show you these things, right? And usually around these Brochs, there's little villages. If you squint your eye, you could be quaintly on one of the Orcadian islands. And interesting enough, these structures themselves, and there's a map of them. There's hundreds and hundreds over Sardinia, right? And these are called nurags. And I thought we'd chuck these in because we're building these Brochs in Scotland, a northern part of Scotland, north of Inverness, Caithness area, and we've got them all over Orkney. We've got them all over Shetland. They're unique. I remember reading. I remember reading a notice board, and it said, "We've got some of the best preserved Brochs on the planet." And I just thought, hang on a minute, right? There's something not quite right with that statement. But they may have been referring to the fact that there's lots of these conical shaped towers elsewhere, like this, right? Like these ones in Sardinia. And these are not these ones are Iron Age, right? You know, from 400-500 years BC all the way to about 200-300 years AD, right? But these ones actually predate the ones in Scotland by about 500 years. So, well, actually 1,000 years, because we know that these were actually being constructed in Sardinia nearly as far back as 2,000 years BC. And they stopped making them precisely on the 14th of August in the year 730 years BC. But so today it has come to be the symbol of Sardinia. Did anyone know this? Have anyone ever heard? You did, because you gave me the information in the first place, you marble.
Well,
Right?
I've been there back in the 60s. I
Why
went
didn't you
there.
tell us about these before, my dear? Anyway, Margaret, I had to think I had a quick chat with Margaret, and she said, "Have you heard about these?" And I thought, right, yes, have a little look at them. And it's possibly likely that there were 10,000 of these new rags all over Sardinia at one time, probably for exactly the same reason. Why we've got these new rags within sort of Caithness, Orkney, and Shetland. Oh, and one of the best ones that I've got here that actually looks like a broch, right? I'm not showing at this minute, but up to 10,000 new rags, and they found about 7,000 across Sardinia, amazingly enough. So what makes them very similar to not so much this one, well, this one, I know this looks like castle-like, but this is probably a bit later, but the general layout is that the new rags are situated in areas and where they're not far away from water sources. The structure walls consist of three components: an outer layer. There you go, an outer layer, and then you've got an inward tilting rubble masonry tower, which very much sounds similar to what we've got in Scotland. And well. Oh, Margaret, have I got a spoiler? I actually used to think that this thing at Musa, in Shetland, being up to 15 meters tall, 13 meters tall today, they say that some of the new rags, right, reached a height, dry stone, right, in Sardinia, wait for it, of not 15 meters tall, not 20 meters tall, sorry, 30-meter tall conical shaped towers. Wow. 100-foot tall towers on Sardinia. I can't believe that, but I've got to think that, right? And it basically, if we compare these new rags, right, with this description, so this is Musa, right? It says, so that right, so think of a murag, right, but look at the one at Musa in Shetland, right? A broch, right? A bruch. So we think the description of a murag, new rag, is as follows, not murag, new rag. The entrance leads into a corridor. There we go. There's the one at the Broch and Musa. And basically it says that there's niches. Well, there's niches in the one at Broch and Musa because they're going up the stairs there. Lead to the round chamber. There's a round chamber. There it is in the middle. A spiral stone staircase. Well, there it is at Musa. But this is in Sardinia that describing. Leads into upper floors. It's amazing, right? And it's talking about thick walls, and they're talking about sort of various niches as well in the new rags in Sardinia, but exactly the same description as what we're getting on these ones on the Shetland Islands and Orkney, right? And you obviously get to the roof. So they're talking that they found. I'm looking at these images. They look exactly similar to the brochs in Scotland, right? Margaret, do you know what? Margaret, can you answer a question? Why did we build brochs in Scotland? Give me a quick answer. Do we know? Do we know the precise function of the brochs in Scotland?
We don't know. We've never. We don't know.
Right. Okay, Margaret, can you say the same thing? Do we know why new rags were built?
No, but they are nearly always by water.
Yeah. So lots of these brochs, right? So in other words, Margaret, right? So if we want to have something that there's a comparison, right? The brochs, a broch description and a new rag is that they may have been for residences, they may have been military strongholds, they may have been meeting halls, they may have been religious temples, they may have been ordinary dwellings, but we don't have the foggiest completely what they're about. However, right, we've got the idea that they controlled the landscape, they could be seen across the landscape, right? So Margaret, when I make the statement, right, you can tell me I'm wrong, right? Margaret, right, tell me I'm wrong, right? So you've got a Sardinian person there standing on the left, right? And I'm in Scotland now, right? And I turn around and say to the Sardinian person, this is the tallest structure you will ever see. And the Sardinian person says what?
Oh,
No,
well,
it's
no,
not.
in Sardinia, they were 3 times taller.
How dare you, Margaret? But you are dead right. You are
They've
dead
got
right.
this
So-
cavity wall insulation, which you can imagine that they do need in Scotland, but why would they need it in Sardinia?
Too
Where
hot.
the temperature is a lot warmer.
Too hot.
They threw sheep in there.
So we know
and
now.
Would it
where
have the
people from
effect of
Orkney-
keeping it cool as well as hot?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
So we now know where the people from Orkney came from then.
Shut up,
Sardinia.
Andy.
Could be, yeah.
Andy, we
Why?
all know where the people from Orkney came from. They came from aliens.
Yeah. Well, we know through that blinking Orkney vole that they came
From
through
Belgium.
Europe at somewhere, but
Yeah.
not through
Oh.
the normal channels. But
Can you remember that guy, John, who used to come to the classes, who used to be obsessed with voles?
yeah. He would have loved
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
He would have loved that. So what I'm going to basically, we're going to finish with this now. I just want to chuck this in there as a little.
Yeah,
sort
very
of-
interesting. No, I didn't know anything about them. That's amazing. And they're very, very similar, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's
they are.
really strange.
A lot of
Yeah,
them.
exactly. This is a smaller one, obviously dry stone, but we've got little tight entrance there, and we've got all these buildings and sort of settlements leading to them, and sort of like this. And that there, just look, the one on the left just looks like a very small block, but
I can
obviously
imagine
it's
sort of an eminent archaeologist sort of stroke historian on the television making a series about that.
Yes.
Being very similar and finding more around the rest of the world to back up his theory.
And again, you see that the Romans were very much in evidence in Sardinia. There's a lot of Roman ruins, but they left those nurags alone.
Andy, right? You
Yeah.
know when Andy is taking the future P out of me really by saying eminent archaeologist. Andy, right?
No, I
that
didn't
would
mean
really
you. But, yeah.
you do mean me. So
No,
basically,
I was talking about Graham Hancock, but
Wash your mouth out.
absolutely.
wash your mouth out, right? Okay, then.
That's why I didn't. That's why I didn't mention it. But then you started thinking I was talking about you, and I had to say no, I didn't mean you.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. I really do. I really do. But can you? Oh my God, it's one of you, right? Judith, this is your research for the week. Has Graham Hancock ever made a comparison between these buildings and the ones in Scotland?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
No. Margaret Poole has, though.
Oh, has she?
Mm.
Eminent.
She has.
There's a series in that. You'd be writing a book next, Margaret.
Right. On that note, we're going to move on to something else. Thank you very much, Margaret. I really appreciate this.
Good one,
Right.
that one.
It was a good one. Now, do you know, Michelle, I used to say to Michelle, because this is like a video 168 or what, not 168, 68 video. And I used to say to Michelle, mention a part of Britain. And she used to say, right, Inverness. And I used to think, oh my God. Well, what it was a series that I did on YouTube, which was every single day. It really, it got too much afterwards. Right. So I would say to Michelle, so name a place in Britain. And she said, Bristol, right? So I would say, right, Roman remains in Bristol, and I find a Roman villa I've never heard of, and she said, Dorchester, and I thought, okay, we've got a bit of Roman wall in Dorchester, and Winchester, and I thought, there's nothing Roman in Winchester. Find a tiny bit of Roman wall in Winchester, and then it started to get a bit taxing, and she said, right, Hereford, and I thought, right, okay, the formula had to be was a upstanding Roman building. It couldn't be something under the earth that you couldn't see. It was upstanding, right? So read that description. So the remains of a Roman river complex, including 2 large stone buttresses and evidence of a mosaic floor, can be seen. The structures, there you go, on the banks of the River Wye. So the Weir Garden Roman remains. The site is located on a terrace near the River Wye. and the most prominent visible remains are two substantial stone buttresses that extend into the River Wye, with the northernmost buttress still standing over 4 meters high, making it the tallest freestanding Roman structure in Herefordshire, if not one of the tallest in Britain. It's basically 4 meters is taller than Raven's Glass. 4 meters is basically coming up to the height of the Thermae at Leicester and Viraconium, and some of the walls in London. So I never knew this existed. And the problem is, when you type this into the internet, the Weir Garden Roman remains, you can't find anything, except if you go on looking at the images for about 20 minutes, you might find one of the images I'm showing you. Right now, before we get there, there was a Time Team episode talking about this site, but I cannot remember these bloody walls in the Time Team episode. These sort of big structures that project into the river. And there you go, a stone planter which had been holding geraniums by Mr. Irwin's kitchen was also identified by experts of Time Team episode as a Roman child's coffin. You can't make it up, right? And you know, I get sometimes that there's stuff out there, right, that is hidden, right, that nobody can see or nobody knows, right? So it's like, oh, by the way, Michelle mentioned another place in England, right? And I thought, I can't find it. And I found a bloody I found a load of Roman columns and a water. Basically, a rich person had taken a whole Roman temple and a watercourse system and re-erected in southern England, right? I kid you not. And you can see this thing. And I even put that into my series as like these. It was like Roman remains in wherever it was in southern England, and you could see an actual full Roman structure in southern England. But it's not. It's from Africa. But nobody ever talks about these things. Anyway, so they were talking about, you know, I found in this little article cables at his farmhouse when he came across an untouched Roman mosaic, and there it is, Weir Garden. That's the county of Herefordshire. And the northern buttress is 4 meters tall. The southern has eroded into the river. And you know, I said to Michelle, I said, it would be great to actually go there and plaster the internet with images of this building, right? It really, really, really would. It really would. So there it is in the distance. There it is. It's sticking out. Can you see the river there? Above, it's 4 meters above the river, sticking out. And then I thought, what? Because I got this off the National Trust, because there's a National Trust site. Right. And look at that there. I kid you not, that's 4 meters tall. Right. And it's been repointed. It's hexagonal. It looks like one of the hexagonal towers of the Roman fort, the Roman town at Venta Silurum, Caerwent. And look at that there. It's just amazing. And obviously it's been repointed, but it's a perfect state of preservation, right? And there is Roman remains within the National Trust owned the Weir near Hereford is this abutment by the Wye that is claimed to be the tallest freestanding Roman structure in the UK. There is also a nearby Roman well, which Time Team, and that's another one, Andy. I'm not showing you the well, right? But it said that the Roman well was found and it was reconstructed the wrong way. But it's a Roman well. And there's 2 of these, but the other one's eroded slightly into the river. Do you know, I want to get out there and take a video of this. I really, really do. So I wanted to give that to you as one of those lot of Roman gems in Britain. And whilst I was sort of pondering my Boudica lecture today, and I want more people on to do the Boudica lecture. I'm going to mention a little bit at the end, because Michelle said you've got to mention a little bit of Boudica at the end of today. So I am. So I'm just going to read a little bit, some of the Boudica quotes to get you into the mood for it. But Drina couldn't make it today because she was still ill. I just got there. As you troll through the internet, right? I just thought, what the hell is this? And this is actually in Pompeii. It's actually a sundial, a Roman sundial in Pompeii, right? And I got some images some images coming up. So at the Temple of Apollo in Pompeii stands a column with a strange looking semicircular block on top. It seems completely out of place and doesn't seem to match its surrounding, but this oddity is something that we would consider somewhat modern in our time obsessed modern society. Atop of the column sits a sundial known as a hemicyclum. It was alleged invented by Berossus, according to Vitruvius, who was another Roman writer. This public clock was a fixture at the temple, which also sits directly beside the Forum in Pompeii. It has a simple function, and it's basically a shadow from the pin in the center indicates the time of day. Seems simple enough, but it really is a testament to scientific advancement made in the Roman world. And I just thought that was great. And I've got some other images. If I, oh, there we go. And basically, there is an outside temple itself near the Forum, right? And it's this sundial, amazing. Just like there's usually going to be, well, unfortunately, the irony is that there was usually sun always in shining at Pompeii, other than the day the big one went up in on the 24th of August at 12 o'clock in AD 79. That statue is still there, right? Remains this temple is still there, and so is the sundial, right? I thought that was great, nice piece of archaeology there, and there it is. Where is the rest of the temple as cafetered, right? When I look at the remains of Pompeii and I think, well, where's the temple? Where is it? You know what I mean? Where is it? Hang on, I thought it was all covered by ash. And you know what, right? It's a shame that I didn't prepare this lecture, right? And have this thing that I've got in front of me, which I'm going to show you at the end. It's something that was sent to me in 1990, right? It's an image that I'm going to photograph and show you next week. It's a Pompeii image. So I've just got to make sure that I remember to show you that. And by the way, any communications that I need to send you, instead of sending you a letter, everyone's going to get postcards now from now on. So one of my long-standing members, another Peter, right? He said it was absolutely wonderful getting a postcard for the first time in years. He said so. Everyone's going to get postcards with me trying to get a message out, right? So that's what we're going to do. So anyway, there's the temple. There's the little dial alongside it. There it is. Can't really see it properly. Right, a bit of archaeology discovery. Right, this is a nice little one. And right, so where are we? Actually, the two. We're not going to go up to 10 o'clock tonight. Thank you very much, because I think Michelle's got a phone her mum and she doesn't want me dripping in the background. So archaeologists, this is new. So archaeologists find unique blood red gemstone at Roman fort beyond Hadrian's Wall. Archaeologists discovered the engraved gemstone Bremenium, a fort north of Hadrian's Wall. And look at it, didn't it actually look perfect? You know, it actually really does. And basically, it's talking, if you can work that out, because there's one there. Hang on a minute. There's a figure there. There's one figure. There's the head. There's the arms. So obviously this is inverted. So this is a seal, an intaglio seal. Apparently, there's two cupids picking grapes. So excavations at the Roman fort at Bremenium, north of Hadrian's Wall, have revealed this unique, wonderful intaglio. I like it when you get things like this. It's associated with the mythology of ancient Rome, imagery that's rarely found in this part of Northern Europe. It's more of an Italian thing. So this is like a very rich red stone. Was likely originally set in a signet ring and used by a Roman man as his personal correspondence stamp. And it's quite important that he says a Roman man. Why couldn't it have been in a female ring? Well, women's rings were not meant to be seen. So it would be not something that a woman would wear, right? Because it's garish, it's showy. Roman women were covered up in the Roman world, usually. So this is why we think it was a man. Thought to be unique in Britain. Researchers recently wrapped up the 5th season of excavations at the Roman fort in Northumberland, about 24 miles north of Hadrian's Wall. So it's on the eastern, near the eastern coast. Originally constructed in the latter part of the noughties. Actually, it was quite sort of early on. You know, it was pre Hadrian's Wall. I mentioned something about that last week. Bremenium was important for military operations in Scotland. After Hadrian's Wall was completed, Bremenium became a key communications outpost north of the wall. And it basically says that they've been excavating there since 2021. Maybe come back here again. They got a rare lime kiln that they found, producing quicklime, obviously for their mortar, plaster, and concrete. So they've been excavating that. That's great. And the results of the excavations will be known next year. And some of the images here are absolutely brilliant. So what I might do is actually show you a little bit more about this next week, Bremenium, and the excavations rather than just the ring. And they've got lots of bullet slings, a clay jug, and various other bits and pieces. So I might actually bring that to you next week. So the clay jug, which is specifically indicative, came from Spain. That says to me the 9th Hispanic Legion. But that's maybe something that we'll look at next week. So we're getting to the end now today, and I thought this was great. And Andy, this leads me on to that story that I used to tell a lot, which Andy's going to put his fingers in his ears. I thought this was actually interesting. It says tomb collapse exposes underground crypt from 1700s. An ancient box tomb thought to be built in the 1700s has collapsed in a church cemetery, exposing a large underground crypt. The 3.6-meter hole opened up at All Saints Church in Somerset on Saturday afternoon, the day before Remembrance Sunday services at the church. The local Reverend Fillery, said it was likely caused by rain gradually eroding the soil and foundations, but the church would not know for certain until a survey was complete. Matlock Parish Council, which is responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of the churchyard, which is now full, secured the site with safety barriers. And it said that the 300-year-old tomb had caved quite suddenly into a large sinkhole. It is currently unclear whether the collapse has damaged surrounding graves or how fragile the ground is. We are working together with the parish church. We will be sure that it is safety secured until all essential repairs. All Saints Church was built over 7 centuries with parts dating back to the 1200s. Significant rebuild in the 1400s. It's not exactly saying. It's saying a 300-year-old crypt, but does it relate to the bodies above, or is it actually predating 300 years old? I do not know. Right. So before we actually mention a little bit about Boudica, right? Margaret and Judith and Will, do you want me to tell you a little story? One that I used to tell a lot, right? Andy, I've got to change the dates on this one because it's getting older and older. About 50 years ago, folks, because when Andy first heard this was 10 years ago. So about 50 years ago, right? There was a group of guys in a local church, right? In a ruined church in France near Paris, right? And they were wandering around the church graveyard, and one of them come across this stone that looked like it led to the old sealed vault of the church before it was ruinous. Right. So one night they went there with a crowbar, right? And a really poorly working torch, right? And it was sort of getting a bit dusky, right? So they opened this stone with a crowbar and pushed it aside. There was 2 of them, right? And the torch was sort of not really working properly. So by the time the one of them got down to the bottom of the steps, right, in this crypt, right, the torch had stopped working, right? So he said to his mate, "Oh, I've been daring enough to go down into the church vault, right? There's a clue to these images. I've been daring enough to go down into the church, this old sort of ex-church vault or whatever, into the crypt, and so one of them was feeling around, and they could feel there was a shelf in there, right? Anyway, so one of them was feeling around, and it was like one of them said, "Oh, I can feel what feels like it's clothes, right?" And the other one touches it and said, "Oh my God, this isn't clothes. This is the head of somebody. This is actually hair, right?" And they started feeling around then to try and get out, and they worked out that these bodies were so well preserved, right? That they had their hair, they were feeling flesh, all sorts of things, right? So what happened next was that one of the local people had alerted the police, but the police knew that this vault contained plague victims. And if anyone knows anything about Eurestis pestis, and also what accompanied plague, which was anthrax, could be still live, right? So the next thing that they did before they got to the base of the steps was that there was a torch of a gendarme, and basically the gendarme said, "You can't come anywhere any further up these steps. We're sealing off the area, right? Because these bodies in here are known to have been placed down here and sealed up. If you would have read the inscription on the tomb above, not to open this at all, right, in French, right?" And then basically what they had to do then, the two guys survived, but they had to burn the contents of this underground crypt, because they did actually contain active elements of Eurestis pestis, the plague. And guess what, folks? If these guys had got out, right, they may have started a plague epidemic 50 years ago in Paris, France, and we might not be here today. So, and that's a true story. So, it's not April Fool's Day at all. That's a true story. So, I just wanted to mention, I did mention that we were going to do a little bit about Boudica tonight, and I just wanted to mention this. So, and let's start it off in its own wake, and we'll just do one little inscription here. So the blood-soaked rebellion of Boudica is arguably the most famous event in the story of the Roman occupation of Britain. It almost ended the Roman presence in the islands here, and saw the legionaries and auxiliary fighting in the most extreme conditions. Defeat would have meant the destruction of 4 whole legions, because they would have been trapped on the island, on a scale even larger than the loss of Varus's 3 legions in the Teutoburg forest in Germany in AD 9. Varus's legions, defeat under Arminius. The context behind this dramatic event was the earlier death of the Iceni king Prasutagus, Boudica's husband. A Roman client king, in his will, he left his kingdom to his 2 daughters and also the other half to Nero. And basically what we've got, this would have been a client kingdom. That's what Prasutagus wished. However, the dead king's will was ignored, and the territory of the Iceni quickly folded into the expanding province of Britannia. It is now that Boudica enters the history. And the history is written by Roman historians. All of the history of Boudica is written by Roman historians. But there is some archaeology, which we're not going to even talk about tonight. That's when we do Boudica properly. With Cassius Dio describing her appearance as very much the warrior queen. He said, this is Cassius Dio. He would never have met her. He would have ended up dead anyway. She was very tall and stern. Her look was penetrating, her voice harsh. A mass of auburn hair fell to her hips, and around her neck was a heavy golden torque. She wore a patterned cloak with a thick cape over it fastened with a brooch. And on that moment, we're going to call that a day. I did say I was going to do a bit of Boudica tonight. I was going to do, but that's us done tonight. So I'm just going to borrow the lamp so I can see what I'm doing. We've done quite a journey tonight. We've done quite a lot of things. It's 9:35, so this is probably the good time to stop. So, and who's we got the chat box as well. Let's see who's put what if this is to be read out. Here we go. Oh yes, Judith said not for me to mention this. Yes, Graham Hancock has an article from 2022 suggesting a common global advanced civilization. The Sardinian ones are older than the Scottish ones. Yes. Amazing. Definitely a similarity. So yes, there is. They're both made of dry stone, conical shaped. You could make yourself famous. Wonderful, Judith. By the way, I'll be playing Santa Claus on 7 dates as of this weekend. So that's life. Andy,
That's enough.
shut up. Oh yeah, well that's nice. Andy, what's the best way to dye my beard white? Or should I not bother? I don't know.
Ooh.
I'll send you mine.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes! I'll have your beard, love.
I don't know. I'd look at modern products because the traditional way would be to bleach it, but that would be permanently
No,
white.
no. Cotton wool.
Yeah, cotton wool, a thin one. Sheep's wool.
Sheep, yeah. Sheepy wool.
Unfortunately, my sheep, the wool is like a weird yellow, and it smells of it smells of lanolin.
An ultra realistic Father Christmas.
Do you know we had a production company from Elstree wanting some wool off us, right? We only noticed this when it was going out, and I thought, why do they want our wool?
Yeah.
Santa beards. Oh, can you remember that bit from The Life of Brian where he says, "Oh my God, this smells a bit off"? What did they make the beards from in The Life of Brian, Andy?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
It wasn't yak, was it? It was, I can't remember, something weird.
Oh,
Anyway,
for the stonings. Yes, I remember.
for the stonings, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this stone. It's lovely. Look at the well it's shaped there. It's a carved stone.
Yeah.
We don't want to go to the stoning, Mum. Oh, that's his mum, isn't it? Never mind.
There are no women here, are there? No.
Ryan is a very naughty boy. And stop sleeping with that Welsh tart. Right, okay. Now, too much, Andy. We shouldn't be doing this.
Probably goat, I'm thinking, with Life of Brian.
Oh, yeah, it was goat hair, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's a little bit stronger than the lanolin from sheep, isn't it? If I remember right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, according to this, Santa Claus, based on the 4th century bishop St. Nicholas of Myra, who was of Greek origin, was born in Lycia in the Roman Empire, which is now part of modern day Turkey. So he probably had a black beard.
No,
oh, no, don't start.
That we've always lived in the North Pole, and I've been around a long time to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, let's not have this.
When he was younger, he had a dark beard, but then he got older and became Father Christmas.
Yeah.
I've been to his house.
In Lapland?
No, over the one in Turkey where he started off.
Oh, really?
There's a cathedral at Myra to him. So.
Oh, gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how he got there to Lapland. That's a long walk. But
yeah.
He managed it.
Magic reindeer.
Yeah, of course he flew.
Dromedaries.
Yeah.
Yaks. Right, okay. Maybe, right? Maybe he went from Turkey. This is a Graham Hancock theory. Maybe he went from Turkey on llamas to the Antarctic, because back then it was all frozen, so he could get all the way.
Yeah.
There was a land bridge.
Perfect sense.
and mammoths. There you go. I'm not saying any more.
Yeah,
Oh,
continue.
do you know, what we could do, we could have a serious archaeological show to start off with, and then it just goes so bizarre. Right. We have, yeah.
It's just reminded me of something. Sorry. I was
go
watching
on.
something the other day and I can't remember where it was now. They'd found some fossilized remains, Cambodia. It was in northern, somewhere around there anyway. No, it was in northern Cambodia, where they knew there were a lot of fossilized remains before, but they'd never really excavated them because of a lot of landmines and a lot of other reasons that they couldn't go there. But they were able to get in. And they'd found these bones, and they turned out to be a very large rhino, about 3 times bigger than the normal ones now, a bit like the size of a Sumatran rhino, which is apparently very rare. But they found signs on these bones that they were butchered. And so they were able to get some dating from them. I can't remember it was a technique I'd never heard of, again, but another modern one for scanning these bones to get the dating. They were 400,000 years old. And,
no.
And they had been butchered, which was astonishing. No, wait a minute.
Don't tell Graham Hancock.
700,000 years old, not 400, 700,000 years. It was way beyond anything anyone expected. And the bigger, larger bones had been smashed post-mortem to be able to get the marrow out. And the other bones, the rib bones and things, had got cut marks, which they were able to connect with some flint they found nearby as being the same as that. So they were definitely butchered, and the only things that could have butchered them, of course, were early humans. So
very early humans.
Exactly. Homo erectus out of Mongolia.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I've been trying to remember all night. I thought there was something I wanted to tell you that was really amazing. But anyway.
What were the humanids called in Cambodia area?
Well, that's where, very near there, is where Florientis came from, but they were only little
ones.
And they were also like 400,000 years later or whatever. So,
well, they couldn't have tackled the great big rhino. They were just
they might have been. They might have been.
They might have.
They thought. You don't know.
They had Kalashnikov rifles back then.
Yeah.
It's just amazing what they keep finding and pushing the dates back and back.
Yes.
And also because it's proof that the pyramids were built by an ancient civilization that existed 10 million years ago, according to Graham Hancock. It's great.
Yeah. Can't beat a good bit of weathering. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there he goes.
Yeah.
That's the Sphinx. By the way, I found this, right? Look at that, right? This massive, right? This aerial view of Pompeii is really detailed, right? I'm gonna photograph that and show that to you next week. And that was sent to me as I'm going through my old paperwork. There's a letter here from Pompeii, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's dated 1990. So I want to show you that.
Taking a long time to get there.
Yeah, well, it takes a while to get from Pompeii, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
they've had a few problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Snail mail.
Came by trireme.
Yeah.
No, actually, if you read Graham Hancock's work, it actually astro-traveled into the Dead Sea, right, via the Red Sea, up the River Jordan, via the Caspian, all the way into the Indian Ocean, up the Achillean Straits, across Alaska, and then eventually got here, and that's why it took so long.
That would account for it, because it would have taken a while to get across the north, probably caught up in the ice a bit. Yeah.
Did you know real archaeological evidence? 14. There was about on the Achillean Islands between Russia and Alaska. That's where we believe that we've got some of the latest remains from mammoths, and they're closer to us in time than we think. Yeah. And the extinction of mammoths goes into those two schools of thought. You're either one of those like me who believes that David Bellamy was right, that all this stuff is about natural changes in the environment and human beings had nothing to do with the extinction of the mammoths, or you can say that we actually as humans went after the mammoths and we led to their extinction, right? Which I don't believe at all.
No.
Because on that plateau in Chile, right, they're there, along with Tyrannosaurus rexes, everything else.
Did they come from Siberia?
Oh, don't be so silly. They come from Easter Island, you silly woman.
Well, they have mammoths in Alberta, so
Yeah.
it's worldwide.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think the overlap's getting bigger and bigger with humans, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. Right, anything else, Andy?
no, thank you. No.
By the way, Judith will be a regular guest on my Mad Archaeology show with Will whenever we do it. Judith, we'll get her on just to talk anything, just to sort of laugh.
I might try and do Wednesday next week if I can't, because I won't be able to do Tuesday. But so if I see me coming on, don't be surprised.
Oh, if we see you don't come in on Tuesday and we see you on Wednesday, then that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thanks.
Oh, you'll miss the discussion about sour bread with me and Anne. So,
Yes.
there you go. Talking about sour women, Judith.
I've got 2 loaves proving as we speak.
Have you really?
I have,
Have
yeah.
you?
Yeah. I make it every week. Sorry, that's got nothing to do with archaeology. No, that's been
No, it does. It does. I tell you what,
Experimental
because
archaeology.
apparently we're going to be snowed in as of tomorrow, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, apparently the snow is coming. We've had 2 days of frost, right? And we're going to have snow. This is going to be the best ever, right?
Oh, God.
So it's going to be great. It's going to be so. In other words, you can send some sourdough to me, Judith.
Okay.
Well done, Judith. Brilliant. Anything you want to say, Judith?
If I send you some starter, you can make your own.
Yeah.
Because all you need is the starter. You just keep it fed. It's like having another animal to look after.
Christ.
As long as you keep it fed, you can keep it going.
What do you feed it? What's it?
Water, flour and water. It literally is flour and water and bacteria.
Yeah.
Why don't I just rub my hands on flour and it can have as much bacteria as it wants?
Yeah, do that then. Honestly, there's so many YouTube videos. Just type it in, and somebody somewhere will show you how to make a sourdough starter, and you can make your own.
Well, I think there's a dodgy version of this somewhere as well. Right, anything else?
No, that's been very interesting. We've been all over the world again.
I think we have, and we've even been to Antarctica.
Yeah.
Oh, we have now because I just mentioned it. Right, lost civilizations. Will, anything you want to say quickly?
No, I've enjoyed learning about Brox and
Nuragi.
Naragis.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Naragis. Hey, that could be the name of a Japanese doctor. Sagaligi Naraji. Right, go on in. Talking about Margaret, anything you want to say before we go? You go.
No, it was really good. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it. Is Boudica under King's Cross Station?
That would be
I read that somewhere. They think she might be under King's Cross Station.
Ooh.
Yes, she is. It's been proven by Graham Hancock. And Chariots of Fire by Von Daniken, but we don't talk about that. So yeah, there's a storm coming in. Yeah. So Joe, I was thinking of just dressing up, wandering down the road dressed as Santa. That'd be good.
Yeah, you could.
My
Yeah.
God, I'm supposed to be. Oh my God. Yeah. I might have to go there, but I got to play Santa on Saturday in a town just down the road. So I'll just get a taxi there probably. That's going to be fun. Right. Okay then. Anyone else want to say anything else before we go?
No, thank you.
Okay then. Brilliant. I really appreciated your time, Will, Margaret, Judith, and Andy, and I'll see you all next Tuesday or Wednesday, or those that don't turn up. And you have a good night, folks.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Anyway,
Thanks,
everyone.
Carl.
thanks for
See you
taking
again.
part. Margaret,
Oh.
Judith, Will, and Andy. No night. No night.
Bye.
Good night.
No night, folks. No night. No night. Anyway, thanks for taking part tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to join my channel. Join my channel. £1.99 a month. It does help. Yeah, I'll be having a lot. I'll need money for a lot more than bloody sourdough soon if I can't get out of here. Right. Anyway. So yeah, got to try and head back to South Wales now tonight. So somehow, how get back for the animals? It sounds like a nightmare. Right. Okay. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's go with this. Okay, I'm going to double check this notification now. In one chat box, 1, 2, 3. So we've got, yes, Graham Hancock has an article from 2022 suggesting a common global advanced civilization. Full stop. The Sardinian ones are older than the Scottish ones. Yes, we're aware of that. The Naraji from Sardinia are older than the Scottish Brocs. And then finally, Margaret, amazing. Definitely a similarity between the Brocs in Scotland and Sardinia. But the similarity ends there because they're about 500 years apart, really, in when one's ends 730 in Sardinia and the Brock starting in Scotland about 300 years BC. So similarity ends there. It's like the step pyramid thing in Egypt, and like in the New World, there's thousands of years apart. Anyway, so a similarity ends. Anything on that window 1, anything on that window 2, window 3, window 4, window 5, and that window 6, and that window 7, and 8, and that window 9, and that finally window 10. Close down the windows. Anyway, nos da chi, gwelwch chi eto, ymwyr o hyd, diwedd nawr. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Nos da. See you tomorrow.